Alrighty, good afternoon, Hawk family. Today we're going to go over the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, otherwise known as FERPA. So that way, when it's time for you to click on that training, you'll be able to ace the quiz, no problem. So what is FERPA? FERPA requires schools that receive funding like we do from the federal government to preserve the confidentiality of all student education records. What's that mean? It means we're in charge of keeping track of all the information that is leaked out from our students and to make sure that we only share what the parents will allow us to share. So it's not that big a deal. It's not worth losing your head over. And we will go over here in a little bit the difference between records that we can release and records that we can't release, and what kind of information we need to be realizing. And we need to also make sure that we are making sure we know who we can and cannot share that information with. So, district-specific information. This is just for our district here. As we are federally funded, of course, we must comply with all of FERPA. Board policy can be found on your agenda on page 15. And this link will be going out to you as well as a slideshow if you want to check into more further details on the district requirements for FERPA. Please make sure after you watch the training videos that you please refer to this document for any questions, so that way you don't have to constantly replay the videos. So, unpacking FERPA. Okay. This law provides the rights of parents and adult-age students to inspect and receive a copy of their own records, to deny access to others specifically outside the school system with some exceptions. One of those big exceptions would be in the event of an epidemic disease outbreak. Didn't have any of those, did we? Or a campus shooting, for instance, that a school could legally share students' education records with designated personnel and law enforcement officers. AKA, they could tell them what their schedule is so that they know what classroom to look at if they're sick or injured. Also, a process to correct errors, including a hearing. The right to opt out of a military recruitment, the right to opt out of disclosure of students' directory information. We'll talk about what directory information is here in a little bit. And a complaint process handled by the Family Compliance Office. So they do not come straight to us. We do not hear from a lawyer. We will deal with the government when it comes to violations of FERPA. Now, that is the good things that FERPA does. There are some shortcomings on FERPA. They didn't get it all right when they put it in, but what government does. It does not give individuals the right to sue the school. Only the U.S. Department of Education will deal with any violations. It puts the burden on the students and the parents to respond to opt-out opportunities, such as disclosure directory information. Okay? Every year we have them sign this little piece of paper talking about FERPA. In there it discusses and says that we will give this directory information out for certain reasons. So if they don't read that and they just sign it, well, they waive their right. That's why you always should read all of your contracts. And it does not dictate requirements for safeguarding education records and how long we have to keep them and how long we have to destroy them. It is what it is. Now, of course, there are two types of information. Educational records is what we'll start off with talking about. And these are controlled by the school or a third party. Think PowerSchool, or I know as many of you love to use it, Otis. Please don't throw anything at me right now. It cannot be shared without parental consent. Things like student grades, immunizations, and health records, disciplinary records, student progress reports, academic or physical testing results, grade point average, and attendance records. You cannot share that stuff. No, denied, do not share it, please and thank you. Next is directory information. Okay, FERPA does allow for some parental and personal information to be released as long as parents are notified. That is that sheet that they signed at the very beginning of the year. It's labeled FERPA at the top, and it goes through all the things that we will share with them. All of those things that are on that list is shared on there. So for some examples are like telephone number, date of birth, major field of study, if you're at the high school level, of course, dates of attendance and all that stuff. On the side note, like I said, it's on them. Staff check for compliance. Of course, we all need to make sure and take personal responsibility for what we say and what we share. Okay? I'm not going to come police you, but if you mess up and you know you shared something you should have shared, please self-report so we can get ahead of it. If we need to do something that needs to take place, please and thank you. But really, to be honest, please don't share anything unless you are asked directly to by a parent. First, we want to throw away all our old school records. We all know that, okay? That's why we send all of our grades to the counseling office. They handle all that stuff. Please make sure you don't put them in the trash. Shred anything that you use. Please shred it if it has personal information on it. Secondly, this poster is up in the break room if you want to make sure that we are ensured of being compliant. Things like raising awareness, which is what this video is for. Make sure that you understand how FERPA applies to you. Okay. Make sure that if you bring a secondary or third resource in, to make sure that they are compliant with FERPA as well. And of course, also be very careful on what you send on emails and make sure it's encrypted if it's something important. But digital challenges. Okay, we all live in the digital world, and there are some different challenges with FERPA now than we ever expected to happen before the age of the digital. Now, with Chromebooks being issued to all of us and those students, we know that technology is integrated everywhere now. So we need to check PowerSchool before responding to any email or request from parents for information. As many of you know, there are certain parents who do not have legal rights to talk to you or information from their child because of court cases and all that fun stuff. So please make sure that at the beginning of the year, you apprise yourself of all those notes in PowerSchool. Be careful of the apps and assignments that you assign. Make sure that you check them first. Make sure there's no backdoor ways to getting PII or personal information. Okay. Also, make sure that they generate a lot of data. They are going to generate a lot of data. Every time that they watch a YouTube video, every time they check on something or read an article, that data is stored. And it makes decisions on adware and all that stuff. So please make sure, okay, that you are monitoring where they go and they are using secure sites only. Okay? And also, please, I know this is very simple and straightforward, but please remind our students to not use their names as passwords. And I know that goes for some of you staff members as well. So over the next few slides, we're going to be discussing case law and specific laws and lawsuits dealing with FERPA. And let's make sure in 10 years we don't have a versus Hayesville Public Schools in a lawsuit. So cameras, as all of you know, we do have cameras in the building. They are acceptable with FERPA as long as they are in public areas. And that means areas in which you can anticipate being seen. So hallways, office, not in the classroom. There are no cameras in your classroom, I promise. Except for maybe in the PE classroom. But that's the gym. Understand that on a legal note, okay, when video surveillance recordings do happen and there's a low expectation of privacy, there's an understanding that those will be accepted for anything that needs to be. So if there's a fight, it breaks out in the hallway. If there's a drug deal go down in the hallway and cameras catch it, it is usable in court. Now, there are places such as bathrooms and locker rooms where there will not be cameras because those are invasions of privacy. Now, immigration. As we know, it's a very hot button issue nowadays. But we do have, we are not immune to it. We do have immigrants coming into this city on a regular basis. In Plyer versus Doe in 1982, the U.S. Supreme Court held that a state may not deny access to public education of any child residing in the state, regardless of whether or not that child is in this country legally. Okay? So it does not matter if they're legal or illegal. If they are here in this country, they have a right to a public education, and we cannot deny them of that. That is not for us to decide. Like all things, these issues can be dealt with at the office level, and they will be for the most part. But for informational purposes, the government agencies request personal information of students in a judicial order or lawfully issued subpoena. It is given. Okay? So understand that if there is a court document that says we have to give up that information, we will, because we will, of course, always adhere to the law. Some final notes on FERPA. In most of these cases, merely deleting a digital record or file is not significant to destroy the information. Okay, data needs to be dumped properly. There are 3 ways to purge, clear, and destroy, all of which the boys in the tech department will do for us every year if you so wish. If you want to turn your laptop in at the end of the year, they will dump that. If not, and you keep your laptop every time we get a new one, they do dump and delete all of our personal data and all of that stuff off these computers so that all of that is dumped and gotten rid of. So please make sure that you are not sharing that anyway. There is a clause also called the Purpose Health and Safety Emergency Provision permits that disclosure of information to protect the health and safety of student individuals. You can do that. Okay, your administration team as well as your counselors will take care of that. If it is a matter of life and death that we need to get information out and we need to get a hold of a parent because of a student needing issues, then that is, of course, a perfectly acceptable reason to release information. And finally, if parents or eligible students believe that their rights under FERPA have been violated, they may file a formal complaint with the department. That means that you will hear from the Department of Education, not a lawsuit. That's all, folks. Now, make sure you log into your email. You find the email from Penny Schuchman. And using that information provided in this presentation, take the district-mandated test we have to take every single year. I emailed you all this presentation as well, so you can use it as a study guide and for future reference. Take the exam before the end of August, please and thank you. Please do not make me remind you to do so, because if I have to come down and remind you and take time out of my day to remind you to take a test that I told you to take now, at the end of August, there will be consequences. Please don't make me do that. I don't like doing that. Thank you guys, and appreciate your time. On the next 2 slides is where I got all my information from, if you are so eager to look up all of that stuff as well. Thank you guys, and have a wonderful day. Please make sure you know where your breakout rooms are going to, and have a great day.